Well, hi there, Michelle. Welcome to the Author Revolution podcast. I am super excited that you're here today to talk about all that you do. So, before we get started and really kind of dig into all you know, do you want to explain to my audience who you are and what it is that you do?
Hi, Carissa. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and speak with you and your audience. What I do is I'm the owner of 1106 Design, and we are a full-service author services company. And that means we help authors with everything from editing all the way through to setup of their distribution on Ingram Spark and KDP so that they always remain in full control of their publishing enterprise and they get the top quality book that's necessary to please the public.
That is really awesome. I mean, that's a broad spectrum of things that you do, all the way from editing to getting it out into the world. What interested you in going down that road? Like what brought you to that?
Well, it's kind of been a long evolution. Back in 1980, I opened an old-fashioned typesetting business when things were done without computers. Hard
Right.
to hard to imagine now, but that's how long I've been in the business, and just kind of went through a whole roller coaster ride, and eventually wound up learning about indie publishing quite by accident. Actually, I was in the library and I saw a brochure for the Arizona Book Publishing Association. And I said to myself, what's that? Because
Sure.
my very first job in 1972 was with Crown Publishing in New
Okay.
York.
Awesome.
And then I did the typesetting business, like I said. And when I learned about the Arizona Book Publishing Association, I thought, hey, I should check that out. And I did. And then I learned that indie publishing was burgeoning at that time. That was around 1997. And so I decided to focus my business on that. And I started out just doing design because that was my background. But then customers started asking me, can you do editing? And can you do a website? And can you do an ebook? And so it didn't seem sensible to me to keep saying no. So I
Sure.
built a team. So I built a team that would do all of that. And it's been 20 years now, 22 years since 1106 Design was started. And
Oh,
that's what we've been doing ever since.
how fun is that? That is so cool. I love how when things transform in ways that you didn't quite expect, but when you listen to what your audience is really asking for and you kind of pivot, all of a sudden it's like new opportunities and possibilities just open up and then you flourish. It's so cool. I love that.
Well, that there's a story for that too, because when I first opened my typesetting business in 1980, a local businessman came in, a roofing company, looking for a business card, and he started giving me unsolicited. He started giving me all this business advice,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, and one of the things he said to me that always stuck with me was that I should listen to my customers because they will tell me everything I need to know. And that has proven to be true.
Yeah.
I think it was some sort of guardian angel because I didn't ask him for advice. He just started talking.
Oh, that is so cool. I love when
Yeah.
that sort of thing happens because it's just like, especially when you're receptive to hearing it too. Like, there are a lot of people that'd be like, dude, you're in roofing. You're not like, what do you know about my business? Like, okay, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. Oh, that is too cool. I
So
love
he was like
that.
some sort of a guru. He might have looked up my name because it was a new business that was published in the business listings and decided to come in and give me a little coaching, even though I hadn't asked for it.
That is too cool. I love that. I wonder where he's at now. Be like,
I don't
hi
know, but
guys.
I remember it was Rich's Roofing.
All
I've never
right.
I've never forgotten that.
Nice. Well, Rich's Roofing, if you heard this, you are remembered. Okay, so one of the questions that I'm curious about, obviously because you do so much and you come at it from the indie publishing kind of angle, what is it that you believe is the most critical decisions that indie authors or authors, if they haven't even decided to go indie, need to make when they're choosing whether to go self-publishing or trad publishing? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the most critical decision is to get their own, and you work in the mindset area, is get your own mindset straight. Why are you doing this? Are you producing a book for your friends and family and just your own satisfaction? Or are you producing the book for the marketplace? Because those two paths require two different approaches, right? And I feel sorry for authors today because there's so much misinformation out there, just outright lies and misdirection. When self-publishing first started, it was understood that the author would be their own publisher. and hire services to produce a good book and control the process and as if it were their own business, which it is.
Right.
Over time, some other entities started coming in called self-publishing companies, and they completely redefined what self-publishing was supposed to be.
Right.
And and that has led, quite frankly, to an avalanche of terrible books. And that's a shame. And that's a shame because a book
Yeah.
is supposed to be a work of art. The author pours their heart and soul into that book. And for people to take that manuscript and to turn it into just a commodity that's produced on an assembly line is really unfortunate. Let's put it that way. So
Absolutely.
so what we do is we keep the standards the way they have always been in traditional publishing. It's not a commodity. It's a work of art that should be produced in collaboration with people who can help you make it and make it more excellent than you were able to do it on your own. And then the end product is something you can be proud of and proud to market when you start showing it to people and telling people about it. So
That is
that I
super
think
cool.
is the most important thing.
I agree with you there, especially like you call them self-publishing houses, and we've also heard them as like vanity presses or things like that, where it's like you kind of, especially those new authors who don't know much about the indie space or even just the like publishing in general, they worry that they don't have enough information or they don't have the, the wherewithal to be able to publish themselves. And yet it's a lot easier than they think it is. It's just that you do have aspects, your cover, your editing, and maybe a little bit of like the setup, the initial setup, learning the setup of, Amazon KDP or Ingram Spark or whoever you end up going with. There's that as well, but it's like all of it's so doable. And when you have the right people supporting you, the right companies supporting you, and even if you're doing it yourself, as long as you're willing to put the effort and mindset into like everything's figure outable, right? Marie Forleo, then it's doable and it's not as scary, I think, as we make it out to be.
Well, I think it's very natural. It's in our collective consciousness that when a manuscript is finished, the next thing you do is look for a publisher.
Yeah. Oh
But I
yeah.
think, well, but Amazon changed all that, right? It used to
Right.
be that an author could not get distribution unless they worked with a publisher. But that changed with Amazon, and now it is possible for authors to manage everything themselves and keep complete control of it. So I think today what authors maybe are doing is looking for services when they want to hire a publisher. And so my message is that you can get those services outside of handing control of your book over to another party.
Right.
And you can and I think you should stay in control of it because there's been there's been some spectacular failures of companies where authors have lost control of their book because the company just disappeared.
Right.
And
Right.
that's a catastrophe. They have to, if they want to keep selling their book, all of a sudden they have to start from scratch. How horrible is that?
Yeah.
So the way we work, we never take control of the author's book. We just help them every step along the way. And then at the end of the job, if they want the book files, they can have the book files. We never claim to own them like
Yeah.
some publishers do. Of course, we
Sure.
hope the author will come back to us for changes because there's some skill involved in revising those files.
Right.
But we never ever hold those files or keep them from the authors who paid us to produce them.
That's great. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
even graphic designers who do that sometimes, or you have to pay like
I know.
an over amount extra in order just to get the files that you've already paid for. Yeah,
Yeah, that
that's
never made
interesting.
sense to me. I've never done that.
Me either. Like when I went back in my graphic design days, it was like, this is your thing. Like you've paid to have it. You should have your files just in case something goes wrong. I don't want to keep it forever. And at some point maybe it will get purged. So you better take your own copies.
Yeah,
Like,
well, the way I look at it is, of course, we want to please every customer and hopefully you'll want to come back to us. But if you
yeah.
don't, holding your files as blackmail to me is just the wrong thing to do.
Right. It is a little weird. It's very, I don't know if patriarchal is the right word, but it kind of feels patriarchal in,
Yeah,
in a sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you obviously do a lot of services. Can authors come in and just like, let's say they just wanted editing. Could they do just editing or do you have to go through like the whole package? How does that
Oh,
work?
no. Oh, no, we're happy to work à la carte. We do offer the whole package and we have the system in place to make that efficient and easy and collaborative. But if an author just wants editing or just wants a cover, we're happy to serve them at whatever level they like.
Cool. Do you have like a price range of like what typically an author would pay? Just to give them an example of what it looks like?
Well, they can find everything on our website under the services menu. I believe
Yeah.
in being 100% transparent. So every service we offer is there with a price, as is the
Great.
price for a typical package. And they can find out everything they want to know about us.
Great. That's wonderful. Okay, so what essential services do authors need when they're publishing a book from your perspective? Like what essential, like you can't skip these things, do they need to be thinking about?
Okay, in my opinion, everybody needs an editor. That's where it needs to start. And that may be for fiction, you might want to work with a developmental editor first and then move on to copy editing. We started the copy editing stage. We can
Mhm.
also do substantive editing, but if you're writing a novel and you really don't know much about character development or plot development and story arc and all of those complications that go into the making of a novel, you're probably better off working with a developmental editor first.
Sure.
And then from there, we would pick up with copy editing, cover design, interior design, interior layout, which is not formatting, by the way. I could talk for a couple of days about that. Then we proofread the book, and then we make an ebook, and then we get together with the author and talk about distribution options and pricing and all of the rest, and upload their files to the platform of their choice.
Oh, nice. So you even upload it for them. Oh, that's
Oh yeah,
cool.
oh
Okay.
yeah, we do the whole thing.
That's great. Okay, so now I am curious though. What is your definition or difference in your mind between layout design and formatting?
Well, I said I had the typesetting background, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
I today you'll go online and you'll hear a lot of discussion about laying out a book in Word or Scribus or whatever else people use, but that is not what book typesetting is. And authors can actually see this for themselves. If they go to a bookstore and they look at a book, a hardcover book, let's say published by a major publisher, and you open up the page, even of a novel, and you look at the text on that page, you can immediately see the difference between that text and the text that you might have done in Word, right?
Right. Yeah.
Word is not a typesetting program. When a typesetter gets a hold of your text, we do so many things, meticulous attention to spacing and paragraph style and widows, which is the last line of a paragraph being one word. That's a no-no. We fix that. You'll see other things that if you don't know the rules, you're going to do these things and you're not going to recognize them as errors and your book is going to look worse for it. So typesetters follow a whole bunch of rules on typesetting a book. And you can find that blog on our website called How We Typeset a Book or
Right.
How to Typeset a Book.
Right.
Word doesn't have the controls. A word processor doesn't have the controls, the spacing controls that a real typesetter will employ
Mm.
when we're formatting your text. And there's a reason for it. It's not just because we're picky people. It's because when we read, we don't want spacing inconsistencies and tight and loose lines and widows and orphans to distract people from what they're reading.
That's
And
true. Yeah.
our brain sees all these things. And so that's what a typesetter does is it avoids those nanosecond distractions that interfere with comprehension.
That's cool. I think that there are some interesting formatting programs beyond obviously Word, but not necessarily Scrivener. It's kind of a it's kind of a cumbersome program, but things like Vellum or Atticus have come on the market, and they definitely make it easier for indie authors. But I think where your type of expertise would come in, it's like when you look at, I'm just going to give an example. Like I'm reading, You Are a Badass at Making Money right now. And when you look at the typesetting in a book that is trad published, there are, call outs, there are pages that have really big font and it just looks really cool. Like you can't do that sort of thing in those types of programs, at least not as of yet. And so when you have a typesetter that has that graphic background and understanding and who understands typography in a way like with the orphans and widows and what that means, now all of a sudden you're taking your book to the next level to a point where you're like creating a book that looks traditionally published.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it's all about subtleties too. You do need that design training And people say, what do you mean you design books? That's the reaction I always get. Uh, and
Yeah, they
yes,
don't realize it's a work of art inside too. Yeah.
inside too, those pages need to be designed with subtlety so that the sidebar text isn't too big, or the subheads or even the chapter openers aren't too big in what we would call in the design field horsey. You've probably come across that word yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to have that training in order to make those decisions about subtlety. And I can tell you, when we work for traditional publishing companies, we might do 15 or 20 interior design variations that
Wow.
the reader is not going to notice the difference, but we do.
Yeah.
And we want that to be just right for the title at hand.
That's really cool. I mean, a lot of us, I'm obviously different because I have that background, but I think a lot of indie authors don't realize how much of a difference that could make. And that there's even companies like you out there that can provide
That,
services that help to create books at that level, right? I
that's right.
mean,
Typesetting is a forgotten word
yeah, right?
now.
It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
I
it's
would
super
say
cool.
every author should go to a bookstore or just even buy an armload of books from major publishers and start to notice just how finessed the typesetting is.
Right?
And once it's called to your attention, you'll see it, you'll notice it, and you won't be satisfied with anything less.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
It's once seen, it's not unseen. That is for
Yes.
sure. Yep.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden you realize how important typography and typesetting is to that smooth reading transition, or the way something looks. Like it's the difference between using like papyrus on your cover, and being able to use a really good font that's actually meant for your genre, or whatever. Yeah.
Yes,
You
I'll
could get
give you one little example. One thing typesetters obsess about is that the last line on the last word on the page, on a right-hand page before you turn the page, should
Mhm.
never be hyphenated.
Oh,
Now,
right. Yeah.
why? Because that creates a tiny pause where the reader has to keep in their mind, okay, that's the beginning of the word. Now I have to turn the page and find the end of the word before I can move on. And that
Right.
interferes with your comprehension.
It does. And it makes you go back and what was that word again? Like I've done
Yeah,
that before,
yeah,
even with
yeah,
traditionally published books where they apparently didn't have a very good typesetter.
yeah, yeah. Some of the traditionally published books aren't as good as the way I was trained. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
They're cutting corners too, but we don't.
Yep. That's amazing. I love that. I also love that you do marketing training because I think a lot of indie authors need that. They need
Mhm.
to learn how to get out there a bit. So do you find that you get a lot of new authors for that type of service, or do you find that there's a lot of mid-list authors who come in and go, I've tried whatever I can try. Can you help me with the marketing ideas here? Like, how does that work on your
Oh yeah,
side?
most authors that come to us are just terrified of the marketing part. And I get that. It's scary to put yourself out there. Just like I told you before that you hit the record button, it's scary for me to put myself out here right now. But I remind them that, when was the last time you bought a product or a service that you hadn't heard of? You have to tell people about your book. And if you
Yeah.
don't, if you really are an introvert and you don't want to do it yourself, then you can hire others to do that. But that gets pretty expensive.
Yep.
So if you can just kind of get over that initial reluctance and learn about it, I think you will find that it's not as scary as you think, and it does get easier with repetition, like
Oh, for
anything,
sure.
like anything. Yeah.
What is it you typically would recommend that they start with? Like if they come to you and they're like, we really need to figure out a marketing strategy, but I have no clue where to start. What would you typically tell them?
Well, our most popular marketing resource from that page on our site is the 8-week author marketing coaching. And
Nice.
it's done by a book marketer, and it's 8 weeks of one-on-one training. You're not part of a webinar. Nobody else is hearing your questions or judging what you may be saying or thinking about.
Oh,
It's one-on-one with a book marketing expert, and she is focused on showing you how to market yourself as an author and your books, of
sure.
course, by extension. But it's more mindset again, how to start thinking like an author, because once the writing is done, you're no longer an author, you are a business person,
Yeah.
and every business has to market itself. And she's wonderful. She'll start wherever you are. If you never heard of Twitter, she'll start there. If you're an experienced business person and you're really adept at social media, she'll start there and show you how to focus it toward publishing and toward books. You may know that when it comes to marketing your business, but she's going to point you in the direction, okay, how do I now do this with a book?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think
Yeah,
sometimes it can be very different when you're marketing a book versus marketing your business, even though they're in a sense that you're babies, right? They're something that is near and dear
sure.
to your heart. But books, at least in my experience, they're all so different too. So you almost have to focus on you as the author, as the brand, and then allow that to kind of be like tier one, and then the book and how it fits into your brand and why the readers are
Correct.
going to love it, right? Yeah,
Correct.
it's definitely a different kind of beast sometimes.
Oh, it is. And look, nobody can be an expert at everything, right? We
Right,
all need expert help in different areas of our life. So getting into publishing, releasing a book is no different.
right, absolutely.
Yeah,
So with your cover designers, do you have people who are like only working on, let's say, mystery, only working on urban fantasy, only working on nonfiction, or do they do like everything? Are they just adverse in or adverse? No, that's not the word. Versed in everything.
first.
There we go.
Yeah, no, my designers do all sorts of books, and I would, from what I've seen online, if from designers who specialize in one genre or another, their covers start to look all the same.
Right.
That's just my perception.
Yeah.
So choosing a designer who knows how to work in all genres, I think keeps the end product fresher
Sure.
because we always start with a little bit of research. Okay, for example, what do cookbooks look like today? What are
Mm,
the best-selling cookbooks looking like today? Because if you emulate the bestsellers in your cover design, you're automatically picking up some of the intelligence and experience of the major publishers without having to pay for it,
right. Yeah. And
right?
the readers are like in their subconscious mind, they're going, oh, this looks a lot like this other book that I know is like a hot bestseller. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a subliminal reaction. It's like, this looks like a good book. And even though I haven't heard of this author, it must be good because the cover looks good,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And I tell authors this all the time, the cover is all about your buyer. It's not about your personal taste. It's what your buyer needs to see to click through, learn more, and purchase your book. The
Absolutely.
interior of the book is all about you and your message. That's fine.
Yeah.
But sometimes authors will get sidetracked and they'll start focusing on what their personal taste is
Hmm.
in the cover design. And that's kind of risky because yes, you can design a cover that appeals to you, but the risk is that you're designing a cover that appeals only to you.
Yes.
And you know, all I keep saying, go back to experts. Experts know what they're doing. It
Yep.
works. We know the public likes these bestseller designs because that's what they're buying. And if you
Right.
want them to buy your book, then you need to do the same thing.
Right. That is so true. And it makes sense. It's like on a conscious level, it does make sense. But I think when you first get, I think this is very typical of first time authors too, or beginning authors, because you get, it's your baby and you think you want it to be a certain way. And you think it has to have a certain message on the cover or do it. And it's really not. It's about, like you just said, the reader. It's about who's going to pick up this book and want to like learn more. Do you guys help with the copywriting for like the book description on the back of the cover and things like that as well?
Yes, we can do that. That's not included in a
Okay,
basic cover design package. That's an option because not everybody needs it. But
sure.
yeah, go to
Okay.
our website, go to
Yeah,
1106design.com. You'll see everything that we offer.
that is so awesome. So give me your best pitch. Why should authors, I mean, you kind of, I think, have already nailed it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why should indie authors choose 1106 design?
Okay, that I think is easy because we're a smaller company. We're big enough to get the job done and have an expert team on your for you and at your disposal, but we're small enough to provide personal customer service, right? If you ask us a question, I'm not going to give you a long list of FAQs to read. I'm not going to I'm not going to have you work through a robot where you have to enter 15 prompts before you can even ask for a representative, okay? We're
Right.
we're we're just a small group. I have a project manager and a project assistant who will just converse with you like normal human to human interaction
I love
a-
that.
and answer your questions and walk you through the process step by step.
Super cool. I love that. I think that's definitely something that a lot of authors need is that not necessarily the hand-holding, but that human to human connection. Because as writers, we're so used to being kind of soloed by ourselves, thinking like we have to do it all. And it's so nice when you realize that there are people, experts out there who can help you, who can make the whole thing seamless and easy and allow it to just flow. That is so cool.
And we love doing that because it's satisfying for us too, right? I mean, I think everybody's had it with big company customer service. And
Hmm.
and it gets back to my original comment that a book is not a commodity, it's a work of art. And it takes experts working together, the author and the experts working together to make it the best it can be. And that takes human communication.
And how fun is that? I mean, to be able to
Yeah.
work with people who love the art piece that's coming together as much as you do. That is so cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I love that. Okay, so you've already said the website, but again, just so that we can circle back around, if authors want to get in touch with you, learn more, where do they go to either talk to you or to learn more about 1106 design?
Okay, our website is 1106design.com. And you can go there. You can download my free book called Publish Like the Pros. It's a booklet, really. It's 88 pages. But if you plug in your email address, you can download a free copy of my book. And that gives you the overview pretty much of what I just said, of all the steps in the publishing process. When you're ready, you can click the button to request a consultation. We are not high pressure salespeople. We're just going to tell you what we do, and hopefully it's a good fit. We're not going to, hound you like some other companies do.
Right.
It's all about a good fit. If it's not a good fit, we don't want to spend time on that either. It's got to work for
Right.
both of us. Yeah. So it's all just human to human, old fashioned customer service, and that's what we believe in.
I love that. And we're just out of my own curiosity as we were speaking, where are you located? Like,
I'm in Phoenix. My
okay.
my my team is all over the country. It's almost summertime here, as you can see. We're heading toward the 80s.
Oh my goodness. It's like
Yeah.
36 here in Minnesota, so we're not in
Oh,
summer yet.
oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, talk to me in July when it's 115.
Yeah, that's true. July it'll be like 90 maybe over
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, oh my gosh, Michelle, thank you so much for being here and talking about everything that you do. I think you've definitely inspired even me to be thinking more about typography, if nothing else. Oh my gosh. But I know my audience is going to be like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Like we really
Oh,
need to
yeah.
learn.
And it's
Yeah.
amazing, right? I've spent my whole life doing good typography, and now people say, "What's that?"
Right. It is so
Yeah.
weird. That was one of the biggest things my graphic design teacher really plugged into us when we were learning graphic design was typography and why it's so important. And he did talk about layout design and not necessarily in books, but just in general, like layout design and how having, good kerning and the widows and orphans and all those things are so important. Serif, sans serif, all of it.
And even from designing things other than books, that you spend a lot of time finessing things and making things just
Yeah.
right, and it makes a difference.
It does. Yeah, it's like writing your story and going back over your first draft and picking a better way to word a sentence, and then it's just perfect, and you're like, oh, that was so good. Yeah,
Perfect. That's a perfect analogy. Yeah.
right. Oh, I love that. Well, thank you again for being here on the show, and you are welcome to come back anytime.
Thank you, Carissa. I appreciate the opportunity, and people can get a hold of me at our website, like I said, 1106design.com, and ask me anything. Even if you're not a customer, I'm happy to answer questions, always.